That's it.
Today we're going to talk about light air roll tacks. Now I've got a pretty in-depth skill breakdown for you, so I'll run you through the steps. The first step in this light air roll tack that we just saw is to bring your back foot over the strap. The second step is to head up slowly, and while you're doing this, you're watching your sail to see how inverted it is, how much of the sail has become inverted. You want to keep heading up until 2/3 of the sail is inverted. The third step is to throw your shoulders out. The fourth step is pull yourself back in the boat using the hiking strap, the grab rails from inside the cockpit, or by holding both ends of the main sheet. Use whatever it is you can grab to pull yourself back in the boat. The fifth step is grab the gunwale with your tiller hand. This will help you climb back in the boat. The sixth step, bring your back foot forward and plant your bum on the gunwale. Your seventh step is to flatten by throwing your shoulders back and sheet out while you're doing this and steer up into the wind while you're doing this. So triple-barreled 7-step, which is flatten, sheet out, and steer up. The 8th step is also triple-barreled. Sheet in, straighten your course, and scoot your bum in. Now we're going to get some footage of each of those, but that's the overview of the 8 steps that we've broken light air roll tacks into. Back to step 1. Bring your back foot over the strap. Let's see it in action. In that tack, Aiden brought his foot over the strap about as late as you would want to. Here's another example of David keeping his back foot over the strap while he decides when exactly he wants to tack, just to make sure he's got his first step over with. Bringing your back foot over is pretty straightforward, but it's absolutely essential. Without putting your back foot over, you can't pivot, and you can't cross the boat. Moving on to step 2. Head up slowly until 2/3 of your sail is inverted. If you turn up into the wind sharply, you'll lose the momentum that you had. By turning up into the wind slowly, you convert your close-hauled speed into speed straight upwind, which is very valuable. A common mistake in tacks is to throw your shoulders too early. That is, move on to step 3 before 2/3 of the sail is inverted. What that does is pull the sail into the wind, thereby stalling it, which interferes with your rate of turn, and you probably come out too high on your new tack, and then that interferes with your flattening. So what I'm saying is that an early shoulder throw before 2/3 of the sail is inverted will cause a chain reaction that will ruin your tack. It's also possible that you do a late shoulder throw, although that's less intuitive, and what usually happens there is that you spend the rest of your tack recovering, or else you capsize, because everything starts happening faster the later you throw your shoulders. Moving on to step 3, throw your shoulders. I say throw your shoulders, but I mean get your weight out forcibly. For women or people with lower centers of gravity, getting your butt out is what's going to roll the boat. Moving on to step 3, throw your shoulders. I say throw your shoulders, but I mean get your weight out forcibly. A good shoulder throw can power you through the middle of the tack that would otherwise be the slowest part of the tack. The other more important thing that throwing your shoulders does is it creates the heel that you're later going to use to flatten the boat out for your final acceleration. Step 4, pulling yourself back in the boat. In the following clip, Max will reach with his right hand for the front of the grab rail early, and later on in the tack, we'll use that to pull him back into the boat by pushing down with his arm. Another way of doing this is to pull yourself into the boat by grabbing onto the hiking strap, pulling in. My personal favorite, which is less common, is to have your main sheet coming down from the boom. This is your end of the main sheet, and with your main sheet hand, you grab both ends of the main sheet and use that to lift yourself up. So you have your main sheet, you grab the other end, and you use that to push yourself up. I can show that. In the following clip, it looks to my eye as though Aiden, the first boat, just uses his core to cross. The second boat, David, looks to my eye as though he's using my preferred method of grabbing both ends of the main sheet, though I admit it's hard to tell. Step 4 was about finding a hold for your forward hand, your mainsheet hand, but step 5 is about planting your aft hand or your tiller hand. So step 5 is grab the gunwale with your tiller hand and climb across the boat.
Seven tacks, guys!
Aiden plants his tiller hand in such a way that the tiller is already turned in the right direction. Take a look at this tack. In the second of those two examples, Aiden brought his tiller even a little bit across center line, and that's going to help with step 7, part of which is steering up towards the wind. Step 6, bring your back foot forward and plant your bum on the gunwale. It's important when you land on the new side of the boat to plant your butt far enough forward so that you don't dig the transom in and you're already in the right position for the new close-hauled course. So this spot is at the front of the cockpit, or if you have cleats, so that your forward hip is on the cleat, or just behind. Step number 7, a 3-parter. You're going to be steering up into the wind, flattening the boat, and sheeting out, not sheeting in. Lots of people will sheet the sail in while they're flattening. That gives you a leech flick, but it's important to think about the apparent wind. When you flatten the boat, the sail is pulled into the wind, which forces the apparent wind, my finger, this way, aft. So if you think about this exaggerated, that would stall. So as you flatten the boat, your apparent wind goes aft, and you need to sheet out your sail. You get to sheet it back in, and you still get a little pull off your leech. But sheeting it out and then sheeting it back in gives you a nicer flow. Steer up to the new close-hauled course gently and try not to be misled by the apparent wind that you built up from flattening the boat. The true wind is going to be lower than you think. One way to evaluate your tack is to look back at the water behind your boat. First of all, see whether your wake was a nice gradual turn, but pertinent to step 7 is there any wash coming off the rudder? Do you see any little vortices in the water from from the rudder struggling against the boat. If you have steered up, if you have steered to weather nicely, the wash off the rudder should be completely smooth and you shouldn't see anything. If you're fighting the boat, you'll cause vortices. Step 8. Sheet back in, straighten out your course on the new close-hauled course, and scooch your bum in. So the reason I make a point of scooching your butt in is that you kill a lot of your speed if you over-flatten the boat at all. So engaging your hamstrings, you pull yourself back into the boat, scooching your butt along the deck, and that slows down the speed at which you flatten. As for sheeting in, there are two schools of thought on kinetics in general. One of them is to be very strong and violent and force the sail through the air like a bird or an insect flapping its wings. When birds or insects do it, they create vortices in the air, big flaps, and they push down as hard as they can. The second school of thought is to slide nicely through the air, staying perfectly tuned to your apparent wind the whole time. And the second school of thought looks at the first school of thought and says, well, that's powerful, but it's going to take you so long to recover your nice smooth flow that I'm going to end up being ahead from doing a smooth maneuver in the first place. So I, of course, try to split the difference and go in the middle. I say start your flatten really powerfully and then scooch in gently at the end of the flatten. This way, hopefully you get the best of both worlds. You get the power of flapping wings, but then your exit is nice and gentle to help reestablish normal aerodynamic flow over your sail as soon as possible. So for sheeting in at the end of the flatten, that means that you want to sheet in gently just to the position that's optimum for your wind strength.
Hey, that's a nice tack.
You thought there were 8 steps, didn't you? Well, there's actually a 9th that you may have already thought of, which is the tiller exchange. I've totally separated the idea of hand exchange from the mechanics of the tack. It's something that happens after the tack is finished. So you've done all those aerodynamic things and all those body position things, and the final result is that you have your tiller and your main sheet in the wrong hands. So if I am moving that way, I have my tiller behind my back, and I have my main sheet in my wrong hand. So I bring my main sheet over to my tiller, and then I release my tiller hand and I grab the main sheet. Then I flip the main sheet around in front of me and sail normally. For a better view of that, stay tuned. And there you have it, an in-depth look at light air roll tacks. Thanks for listening.